Rick Daddy here with riceboytv. We're at Skunk2 Racing, way out in the middle of nowhere. We plan to install, dyno test the Megapower R exhaust on this 2008 Honda Civic Si. I forgot to tell you, this is Nads' car. He's been trying to keep it stock for a long time, but if that was really the case, he should have hit his keys better. A chassis dynamometer, also known as a dyno, is a machine that tests the horsepower of your car to the wheels. The first thing we're going to do is a baseline run, which is going to tell us the stock horsepower of John's car.
The red run was our very first run, and when the engine's cooler, when we first make the first pass in the dyno, although we spend 15 minutes tying it down and letting it idle and warm up, the first run is usually slightly higher in performance, as you'll see in this little area right in here. From 3,500, everything is stabilized and forward from there. This is our horsepower run, and there's a little bit of a gain after it goes into VTEC, and generally it's usually your first pass of the day will show the best power. That's why we always make 2 passes to make sure that our power is consistent.
We just finished the baseline dyno run. It showed 183 horsepower to the wheels, which isn't too bad. Now the car's back on the lift. OG tuner Oscar Jackson is going to take you step by step while we install the Megapower R exhaust on John's Civic.
The Civic Si, the 06 to 08 FG version that we're working on today, is an extremely beautiful car, works really, really well, and is extremely quiet. But there's always power to be extracted from all of these cars because they're built as a compromise. We're going to put a Skunk2 catback exhaust on today. Shall we get started? Let's go. We're going to spray some penetrating oil on these nuts, and you can see that they're very hot from us being on the dyno just now. We're going to let those cool off. As we move rearward, you'll see that there are rubber grommets on this car. There's one right here at the pivot point. So again, we're going to put some Torco penetrating oil on these grommets so it makes them easier to get off. There is another grommet in here, right above the spring pivot point. And then lastly, we're going to spray here on the rear grommets also to make sure that they're well coated. Now moving forward again, we're going to, now that we've let these nuts get some penetrating oil on them, we're going to get in here and loosen them with a wrench because they're very, very tight at the catalytic converter. And you'll notice with my torch-wear gloves on, no matter how hot they are, the gloves still protect my hands. Okay, we're going to leave this nut on just a couple of threads while we remove the rest of the exhaust because we don't want this popping off and falling down on the ground. So we're going to remove this bolt and spring from the muffler where it meets the intermediate pipe. At this point we've disconnected the muffler. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up here with a screwdriver and I'm going to pull the rubber grommets off of the hooks that hold the muffler. And we're going to carefully remove this from the car. Nice big tubing, but very restrictive at the joint. We'll remove this last nut that we were using to make sure that this pipe didn't fall down. We're going to remove this center grommet, again using the screwdriver or pry bar. So now this pipe is loose here. We only have another couple of grommets to go, and it will be off the car. We'll start the installation procedure by removing the rubber grommets that were on the original exhaust, and we'll attach them to the Skunk exhaust. I've already installed the gasket that comes with the system. It's a very, very nice double insulated gasket. Because we use investment cast flanges that are thicker than the stock flange, it's important to get these first 3 nuts on before you tighten any of the rest of the exhaust system up, because there isn't a lot of thread sticking out when you put the thicker flange on. And we're going to re-lubricate all the rubber grommets to make sure that everything goes together well. We're going to put the short resonator section in at this point. What it will do is it will hang in the original mounting rubber grommet, and it will be attached with a gasket and 2 bolts. I'll get the first bolt and nut in, and then we'll swing the gasket into position and put the second bolt and nut in. We're going to leave these bolts hand tightened until we have the muffler installed. We're going to slide this through between the spring and the chassis so we can get it in here. Drop it down, Yukio. And then we'll put the rubber grommets through the hooks first before hooking the flange on, otherwise you'll never get it in. At this point we're going to finish tightening all the bolts down so that all of the flanges are tight and all the gaskets are correct. Now we'll move to the front where the catalytic converter is. Have to switch wrenches. For this operation, to reach in above the exhaust system, you're going to want a long extension and a thin wall 14mm socket. It'll make tightening the bolts much, much easier than trying to use a large box end wrench. All right, we're complete. It's time to dyno test. But starting with the catback, we can see this big improvement in torque and power. Right from the VTEC point at 6,000, it starts to improve and it jumps up there. If you look up here, it'll give the RPM and the horsepower. So if we go to, for instance, at this point, right after VTEC is usually where they make their best power, 6,700 to 164 at this point, and 6,700 is 168. So it's picked up 4 horsepower in that one single spot, which is real nice. And then right when it really gets to the point where the exhaust can do something, the airbox becomes restrictive and or the header becomes restrictive. So those will be the next 2 installments to improve that number right there. And you can see we're already at 184. It's not going to take long till this thing is getting close to 200.
All right. Old man Nads might be a little bit pissed that I stole his car, but he did get a new Skunk2 exhaust out of it, and we did make 3 to 4 horsepower in the mid-range. Like Oscar said, the air intake is really restrictive, so that's the next step. Look for that in the future. For now, I got to get this car back before he wakes up from his afternoon nap.
Well, we put good penetrating oil on them, and it makes them much easier to get off. Famous last words.